You're watching coverage you can count on. This is News Channel 15's News at 6.
Good evening. The Noble County Sheriff has a plan to keep kids safe in school. As we've reported in the last few months, he wants to arm some educators, make them special deputies, and send them all through the training that goes with it.
In a News Channel 15 special report, Alyssa Ivanson gives us an exclusive look inside part of that training.
Well, the Noble County Commissioners are still evaluating and discussing the sheriff's plan to arm staff inside every school in the county. But while the talks continue, training has already started. For this story, I assumed the role of Miss Ivanson, Noble County teacher, and I experienced the training alongside the actual educators. Columbine. Virginia Tech. Sandy Hook. Horrific school shootings our country will never forget, and tragedies helping shape lesson plans for defense.
You can only lock down buildings so far.
If we do nothing, we're still at the same place we were 5-10 years ago.
By having emergency responders in the classroom, you put weapons where the fight's at.
By arming staff inside the school.
We have teachers in all these school shootings that put themselves in front of a madman that's trying to kill their students, and they end up dead. And I think those kind of people in those kind of settings, if they had the ability to fire back and protect those kids, would do it.
Noble County Sheriff Doug Harp wants to train and arm staff in every school in the county. At the end of the training, the educators become Noble County Special Deputies. Central Noble Community Schools is moving forward. East and West Noble still considering it, but West Noble has sent some staff to get the initial training.
We want you to get into the habit of handling it safely.
The training to be a special deputy starts with the pre-basic firearms class, a comprehensive course starting at the very beginning. I joined the educators to get a first-hand look. Part of the program's success depends on not knowing who may or may not be carrying a weapon inside a school. That's why we're not revealing the identity of anyone I trained with.
And it's not just something on a whim. We've exercised some sound discretion, some sound judgment.
In the classroom, we first learned the law behind deadly force and when to use it.
They are technically law enforcement officers, so they need to have a thorough understanding of the legal foundation for the use of force.
For many of us, it was our first time handling a handgun.
I was really nervous in what we were going to be expected to do.
We used a .40 caliber Glock for the training, but if educators carry a concealed weapon in school, they would have a much smaller handgun. To get comfortable with the weapon, we learned how to field strip it and how to handle it safely. A big part of the day spent on the Ligonier Police Department's firing range, doing drills, learning to engage a target, and concentrating on proper form while firing hundreds of rounds.
I thought it was very thorough. I thought it helped me to understand what we're doing and what the expectations would be.
Well, I feel a lot more comfortable with handguns and using them. Before I had no idea, so that's why I took the training.
The day ended with qualification, the same shooting test full-time law enforcement officers have to pass.
They're the same people that are working with our reserve officers, our regular officers, and going through the actual same process so that we can say, hey, this is what we scored in the firearm training. This is comparable to what all of our police officers go through during their pre-basic firearm training.
After a full day of firearms training, the school staff in the class with me and I all agreed that we felt a lot more comfortable with handguns.
But we also all agreed that we wanted more training before we felt comfortable carrying a weapon inside a school.
The training is ongoing, and it has to be that way.
We have 3 more training sessions on for the year, which will culminate in a very high-stress shoot that will give them the effects of having been in combat.
We deal with how to use physical tactics to protect your weapon. You know, we talk about gun retention, we talk about gun takeaways, we talk about things to do to protect yourself and your weapon.
When school staff become special deputies, they'd have to keep up with training and qualifications, just like other law enforcement officers.
They're actually going to have to go through a psychological evaluation just like an officer does. They're going to go through all the pre-basic trainings that an officer does, and then they're going to do the continued training just like an officer does.
I waver on it. There's times where I think and maybe it's a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction, but you know, then you get a call that says, you know, that there's a potential person that might be coming into your school with, you know, with reasons that you don't know why, and to think, you know, that you don't have any means to stop them is scary.
Perhaps the most compelling part of the training was a chilling video of the Columbine massacre, showing how the gunman had free rein inside to kill.
That's one thing that really struck me as well. I do see why being armed in the school would be beneficial if that were to happen. It's just a scary thing to think about either way.
One of the problems with those types of situations, active shooter situations, is that quite often the closest police officer is still 5 minutes to 10 minutes away.
In 10 minutes, an active shooter has a potential to destroy a lot of life.
Which is why having educators armed and ready to fight back could be the best first line of defense.
It kind of goes against my philosophy of keeping schools safe, but after today, I might reconsider that.
If you have to choose between arming teachers and worrying about the safety of your kids, then we do have to look at maybe arming teachers.
The hope is armed staff members could be a deterrent from a shooter even going into the school. The educators and sheriff also all agree this program does not replace other security measures like buzz-in systems and school resource officers. They say this is just another layer to keep kids as safe as possible. In Studio 15, Alyssa Ivanson, News Channel 15.